Hello, this is Football-Oranje's Top 30 Dutch Teen Talents with me, Michael Statham, and I'm joined by website founder Michael Bell. Now, we've put this top 30 list up on the website already, but this is another way for you to get your player profiles and also a way of seeing why we put players in a particular order. Before we start, if you like us doing this kind of content, make sure to give it a like, whether you're listening via SoundCloud, YouTube or iTunes. And why not comment, who do you think is the most exciting Dutch football talent around at the moment? It's time we brought Mike into this. Hi Mike, hope you're doing well. We're going to talk about each player, aren't we? But we'll spend more time talking about the sort of top 10 or top 15. When you were drawing this list up though, did anything surprise you about the talents on offer at the minute in the Netherlands? And was there an overload perhaps of a particular position?
Yeah, I think we always talk about it that Netherlands is such a hotbed for young talent, and yeah, making a list and keeping it to 30 was actually more difficult than what I thought it was going to be. Easily could have went top 50, but we didn't want to include a couple that might not be as talented as the rest, and we wanted to keep it short to 30. It is just our opinion, so I mean, there's a few that will miss out, and I'm sure we'll get comments from fans of each club, like Ajax, Feyenoord, saying that why isn't this player in there, why isn't this player in? It's something that we'll look to do yearly. There might be some that miss out this year, then it'll be in next year, but this is just our opinion. And there's quite not a lot of goalkeepers that we've added to us, not added any at all. It's a difficult position when your players are that young, I think, to include them in the top 30 list. But there's a lot of attacking midfielders and strikers, which is great, because they're, strikers are a problem position for Netherlands at the moment, and there's a few fullbacks as well, which could be breaking into the national team over the next few months when the season does actually get back into contention.
That is exciting news, and perhaps not a surprise that we've got so many attacking midfielders coming from the Netherlands and fullbacks as well. Often midfielders that have been put into those sort of wing-back positions that do so well in the Netherlands and in the Eredivisie and such. Without further ado, I think we should start our list, and at number 30 we went for RZ's 16-year-old midfielder, Feder de Jong. So we've got another de Jong coming, haven't we? And he is a very skillful midfielder. I think that he's someone that's known for his passing. He could easily be someone who could have made like our top 10 though, for example, because he's that exciting, isn't he?
Yeah, he's making a big splash for Netherlands under 17s and AZ's under 19 side at the moment. And what's exciting for me is that if AZ reach the Champions League next year, they're going to be in the UEFA Youth League, and this is a player that's going to hopefully light that competition on fire. I think AZ's academy right now is the one to watch in the Netherlands, and Fede de Jong is the next one that's probably off the production line. It's another de Jong after Frenkie, and it's another midfielder that's got a very exciting future.
Yeah, a very exciting player indeed. 29, Mickey van der Ven. Volendam centre-back, someone who's making a lot of appearances in the Eredivisie, which is a good place to develop because you can get a lot of games in your development before you can then make a move to the Eredivisie. Now, it's unlikely Volendam will get promoted, so it's important that Van der Ven makes a transfer to the Eredivisie, isn't it, for next season?
Yeah, it's very important for his development, and he's got all the big clubs chasing him at the moment. I know PSV, AZ and Ajax are all having a look at him, so he's definitely one to watch out for in the future. He's been trained by ex-Ajax youth coach Wim de Jonk, so he's very excited about him, and I think he's got a very bright future.
At 28, we went for Ajax's Jurien Timber. He is someone who's made his debut already, hasn't he, for Ajax? And I remember watching him with the Netherlands under 17s when they won the Euros in 2018. And he was someone who I thought was quite agile and could easily have played at, well, he's a centre-back really, isn't he? But he can play full-back, and I think he could play midfield as well. He's quite tenacious, I think.
Yeah, he's just one of these Ajax centre-backs that's so comfortable on the ball. He can play in multiple positions. We've seen it with countless players in the past, and Timber's just one that's got a very bright future as well. And he's already made his debut in the first team. I think he did really well in that game against Heerenveen, and I think next season we'll see a lot more of him.
27, Romano Postema, the Groningen striker, who's made some appearances for the first team already. He's a decent striker, isn't he? And I know that he made a lot of impressions when he was playing for the youth teams, but so far with first team football not quite having the impact that we thought he might have done. But that's not to put him down though, because he plays for Groningen and they're quite a defensive side. So he's having to do a lot of work, isn't he, for an 18-year-old?
Yeah, I think that's why he's getting a lot of praise at the moment because his work rate is fantastic when he comes into the game. He's having to play a lot deeper, and yeah, Groningen are not really a side right now that creates a lot of chances for the strikers, so he's having a tough time in front of goal. He only gets maybe one or two chances a game, and he's yet to score his first Eredivisie goal, but I'm sure that's going to come pretty soon because he's got a lot of talent.
At 26 is Dirk Proper, and he is another one of those players in the Eredivisie who's likely to make a transfer. He's already turned down some of the biggest clubs, hasn't he, in the Eredivisie? And why is that? Do you think that he's just trying to have a bit more development with NEC and perhaps seeing if they can get promoted to the Eredivisie? Because he's someone who as an attacking midfielder, could easily play for a mid-table Eredivisie side for next season. You know, someone like Twente are losing a lot of their attacking midfielders, or equally could be playing for PSV. But I guess if you went to one of the biggest clubs, you'd end up being put in their second teams, which play in the same division as NEC anyway.
Yeah, he's definitely taking a different route to the top. You know, he's a regular for Netherlands under 17s, and that's strange when you play for a club like NEC. But he's got so much talent, and he's countless times he has turned down interest, especially from PSV Eindhoven. And I think he's done well to stay at NEC, and he's getting game time regularly now in the first team. And I think that he will be ready for a step up. And I'd like to see him maybe at a club like Vitesse or Heerenveen, because I think that he'll be a regular for them in their division before he makes that big step up.
At 25, Yuri Rahia. He is another 16-year-old in our list. We've got a lot of those younger teenagers lower down our list because we just don't know how good they're going to be. But a lot of excitement's coming for this young man, and he's another midfielder in our list. Mike, what do you know about him?
Yeah, 16, already impressive for Netherlands under 17s. He's already in the young Ajax side, a regular there. And he scored countless goals for Ajax under 19s in the youth league this season. I think he's got 5. Yeah, he's a very talented midfielder, excellent passer, dribbler, can score goals, has a great shot on him from distance, just a great all-rounder, and I think that he's got a very bright future for Ajax. You know, he's 16, he's already playing professional football, and I wouldn't count out that he makes his first team debut early next season.
24 is Xavier Mbayamba, and he is a Barcelona centre-back. It's not unusual to have a Dutch talent playing for Barcelona. Someone who's a bit older this time, an 18-year-old. And I admit, I don't know too much about him, Mike. What's his background?
Well, last season he made his breakthrough into the MVV first team, played a handful of games for them in the second division. And a lot of top clubs were looking at him. He's big, strong, tall for his age, really good ball-playing centre-back. Patrick Kluivert, who's head of youth development at Barcelona, was scouting him a lot. You know, they had competition from Chelsea, but Chelsea's transfer ban meant that, you know, Mbayamba had to go to Barcelona, and he's already been training with the first team. There they see a big, bright future for him. He's in the under 19s right now, but he'll be moving up to Barcelona B team next year, and then hopefully after that he'll make his first team debut. But he's already an international under 19 level, and yeah, it's just a very exciting centre back to keep an eye on.
Admittedly, I don't know too much about the Dutch talents that play abroad. Another one who plays for Borussia Dortmund is Emmanuel Ferrari. Again, who is he?
Yeah, he came through the AZ Alkmaar Academy. They were very excited about him, but a couple of years ago he decided to make a move to Borussia Dortmund. He's a creative attacking midfielder. Can play on the wings, can play at number 10. His assist ratio for Dortmund's under 19s this season is excellent, and you know, it's a club that gives youth a chance, and Ferrari is one that's constantly being pushed forward for being the next one that's going to be given our first team debut. I think it will happen next season, and we'll just see how far he can go, because you know, you've got the likes of Sancho making an impact there. You know, Ferrari could be that type of player that comes in and makes a big impact in the Bundesliga, and then the next thing you know, he's making his Netherlands debut. So he's just one to definitely watch in the next season.
Now, the next one is someone who I know a fair bit about, because I always kept my eye on him since I watched him with the Netherlands under 17s, and that's Wouter Berger. He is a final midfielder, 19 now, and he made his debut for Feyenoord this season in the Eredivisie. before making some appearances on loan with Excelsior before we had to stop football, unfortunately, because of the coronavirus. He was doing all right in the Erste Divisie, but not outstanding. I think that he'll need perhaps another season with an Eredivisie club before he can play more regularly for Feyenoord. He's quite a tall midfielder. He can spray a pass around, and he's got a decent shot on him too. I think what he'll want to do though is he wants to try and build up his defensive game, because as a deep line midfielder he needs to take more responsibility for breaking down other teams' attacking moves.
Yeah, I was quite impressed with him earlier in the season when he was getting a chance under Jaap Stam. I was quite surprised when Dick Advocaat came in and immediately shipped him out on loan. But yeah, I agree, he needs some more experience, and a loan at an Eredivisie club next season would be perfect for his development, because he probably needs 1 or 2 more years before he can be a top-class midfielder for Feyenoord.
And at 21, now this guy has got a classic Dutch name, Dylan Hoegewerf, something like that. Hoegewerf. He's playing for Manchester United. We've seen Taif Chong go there already, and perhaps his career didn't take off the way that we all thought it might have done. So what suggests to you then, Mike, about this guy that he's a striker? What suggests to you that his step from the Ajax academy was the right one? And can he succeed in England? Because so many talents so far haven't.
Yeah, I think he's taken a risk because he was so highly rated in the Ajax academy, and they couldn't keep him. Manchester United swooped for him. He went there, he's full of confidence, and he's scoring goals for their under-19 side this year, and he's already made his debut for under-23s. He scored some important goals in the Youth Cup, and I know that they're very excited about him in Manchester because they've just handed him his first professional contract. It is a risk, but I think he's got a lot of talent about him. He's fast, he can score goals, he can play on the wing as well, or for the middle. Yeah, I think he's got all the attributes to be a top-class striker, and I hope that he follows in the path of Rashford and the other Manchester United forwards are making a big impact right now, because they are giving youth a chance under Solskjaer, and I think that Hoegewerf, if he stays there for another couple of years, will be the next one to break through. And I've seen some great Dutch players play for Manchester United in the past, the Van Nistelrooys and the Van Persies, and I'm sure they'd have another Dutch striker in to play for their first team. I think Hoegewerf has a great chance.
The next one on the list is Feyenoord's Banis. Now, he's one I'm quite excited about, and personally may have put higher up my list. I don't know about you guys listening to this, because of course we all have agreements, disagreements on our lists, but Banis is someone who's a really exciting striker, and he's making appearances for Feyenoord already. Mike, what suggests to you though that this Feyenoord youth striker won't be another flop? Because we've seen quite a few youth strikers come through the Feyenoord academy and then not make it to the first team. I could think of 3 examples already, I think, over the past sort of 5 years that we thought were going to come through but didn't make it.
Yeah, I think Feyenoord has been a club over the past couple of seasons. I've seen them give youth a chance at times, and you think that a kid's going to make his breakthrough and then he just suddenly disappears. You had Toure, Vente, Azarkan at the start of the season, and Banis is another one. He was given a chance by Jaap Stam, looked really good. But now under Advocaat, he's dropped back down to under-19s where he scores goals for fun. He's a regular goal scorer for them, but he wants that first team chance, and Advocaat says he's not ready yet. It's tough because they've got Jurgensen there, and I can see Banis having to wait till maybe next season, the end of next season, to get another chance. But I think he's got so much talent about him. Really quick, good finisher, strong, good dribbler. Maybe even a loan to another Eredivisie club would do him well for next season, because I think he's got a chance of being probably the best striker that Feyenoord have produced in recent years.
And in 19 and 18 are 2 Dutch wonder kids who left PSV's youth academy to join England. And Jayden Braaf is in number 19, Manchester City forward, and Ian Maatsen, who's now a Chelsea left back in their youth teams. Mike, what are your thoughts on the potential of these 2?
I think they both have immense potential. I think Braaf right now, he's scoring so many goals for Manchester City's under-23 side at a young age, and yeah, he can play on the wing, he can play for the middle. He's been excelling for Netherlands under-17s. At the recent World Cup, he was a standout on the left-hand side. I think that he has so much potential, and he's already been talked about getting a Manchester United Manchester City, sorry, first team debut next year under Pep Guardiola, because he is that good. And Maatsen, he's already made his Chelsea first team debut this season in the cup. He's been on the bench several times for Chelsea. I think again Frank Lampard's another coach who's come in and given youth a chance, and Maatsen's the next one. He's a left back. Netherlands definitely need him, but he can also play in the centre midfield as well. I've seen that for the Netherlands youth sides, and he's definitely one that Chelsea fans are excited about. And he's going to make his Premier League debut over the next year. I'm 100% certain of that.
Now, of course, a problem with players like that go to England is that they just never seem to quite get their chance, and they are players that should be given a low move, perhaps to the Eredivisie, to get those games in. And fingers crossed that those two talents can make it, because there's always so much potential with Dutch youth players, but then how many actually make it to those big clubs at the end of their career? Well, in 17, for me, someone who's really going to make a lot more appearances going into next season is Feyenoord's fullback Geertruida. He is a good player. He's very solid, and for so long, actually, I thought that maybe he wouldn't be that good of a fullback, but because he was a centre-back before, his sort of strengths aren't going forward, they are actually defensively, and that's probably something that the Netherlands are looking for as well, that fullback who's going to be defensively reliable. And you never know that if he has a good season or two going forward, he could be easily within reach of a Netherlands debut, because he's such a good fullback. I think his defensive sort of work rate is what sets him apart, and probably makes him a fan favourite with Feyenoord fans as well.
Yeah, coming through as always a centre back in the youth teams, and he's been deployed on the right hand side, and he's done so well this season because Rick Karsdorp came back from Roma on loan, but he's been out injured, and Geertruida was given his chance by Advocat, and he's not let him down at all. And Feyenoord have gone on this amazing unbeaten run, and Geertruida can hold his head up high and say he's contributed a lot to that, because his work rate and defensive ability on that right hand side are great. If he can add more to his attacking side of his game, then he's going to be an excellent fullback going forward, and could potentially be one of the best in Europe if he adds more to his forward game, because that's what's lacking at the moment. He doesn't really provide assists. His crossing isn't that great, but at the back he's excellent.
Now in 16 and 15 there are two Ajax academy players. How about I take 16, Mike, because I've watched this guy play quite a lot, and you take 15, Kenneth Taylor. In 16 is Brian Brobby, big, strong striker, not someone who you would typically associate with Ajax's academy, because he's a very different type of striker. He's someone who is obviously a threat in the air with all that strength, but also he can hold off defenders really well and get some shots away. I think the frustration with Brobby is that he hasn't quite made that jump to first team football, and 18 now. He hasn't got too long left before Ajax perhaps don't give him that chance to do so. Because he's seen other players that are younger than him, such as Nacho Univar, who we're going to talk a bit more about later, make that leap, and yet he hasn't. So I think that he'll be looking to try and do that next season to get his first team debut for Ajax. It perhaps could be because he needs to add more to his game, and maybe his strength set him apart at youth level where many of the players aren't as strong. And maybe now he needs to develop other areas of his game before he's given that first team chance. And in 15, Kenneth Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor's a player that I've watched for several years for Netherlands youth side. He's always been the captain in midfield because he's a leader on the pitch. Good defensive midfielder, but he can also play going forward. He has so much aspect to his game, so much talent, so much technique. His passing ability, his tackling ability, his set piece taken. He's an all-round midfielder. He's only 17, but he's the next midfielder I can see making his debut for Ajax's first team, because they've already seen Univar and Hravenberch make it, and I think Taylor's the next one because he's never present for under 19s. He's always the one that is impressing. He's never present for Netherlands under 17s at the Euros, at the World Cup. He's always one that stands out, and I think that Taylor has all the talent to reach the Ajax first team, and I think he's got to do it over the next year, because there's a few doubts over Ajax's defensive midfielders are around right now, and I think that Taylor should be fast tracked in there, because I think that over the next few years he could be the one to hold that position down, and he would be the next. I don't think he's as dynamic as Frankie de Jong, but he can definitely do a job that's better in there than, say, Martinez or anyone like that, because I think that given that youth a chance over the next few years, he could hold down that position.
And I think we should do the same again for 14 and 13, Mike. In 14 is Motabuni. He is an Arsenal attacking midfielder. And with some of these big talents leaving RZ in the next year or so, that sort of Calvin Stengs and Idrissi on the other wing, Motabuni is going to be one of those players who will want to take that chance in one of those positions. He is a very exciting talent and perhaps the biggest one in Arsenal's academy right now. He's someone who takes players on. He creates chances. Yeah, he's one of those very technical attacking midfielders, and definitely someone who fits into what the Netherlands youth system always tries to produce. A very exciting player in my opinion. And for number 13 is Jeremy Frimpong, a Celtic fullback.
Yeah, I'll happily admit that I didn't really know much about Frimpong. Going into the season, he was at the Manchester City Academy. It's strange for a player not to have played in Holland or come through a Dutch academy, but Frimpong's been in the Manchester City one since such a young age, and in the summer he decided to leave and join Celtic. And yeah, in Scotland he's been an absolute revelation. His personality's really come through, and his attacking intent has made him a fan favourite at Celtic Park. I know that they signed him with the view that he was going to be a player that maybe came through in the next couple of years, but he's been so good for them that he's been fast tracked into the first team and he's not let them down at all. And Netherlands, they're looking out for a top talent at right back, and I think that Frimpong's one that can definitely break into Ronald Koeman's side over the next year. He's been so impressive for Celtic, and I know that a number of clubs will be watching them and maybe want to pinch Frimpong because he has been that good. He's contributed goals, he's contributed assists at the back. He's been really good, and he's got a really strong personality as well. I know that fans like him because he's a bit of a hothead as well. So yeah, he's one that I'm very excited to see how he develops over the next year or two.
Yeah, Celtic tends to do quite well with developing the young players, and you can see him going on to perhaps move to the Premier League or something with the way that he plays. In number 12 is Kenzo Helmine, someone that I've been keeping my eye on since he again was with the Netherlands under 17s. He's someone who's made a lot of appearances for young RZ, but not really been given too much of a chance with the first team yet. I don't know if there's a reason behind that. He has of course got a lot of competition in the RZ midfield. At the minute, it's a very settled team that's doing so well at the top of the Eredivisie. Equally, they like to give chances to young players, and Helmine hasn't really had his yet. I really hope he gets it next season. I think the issue with him at the moment is he's not someone who's a vital, sort of a player that creates goals or scores them, and he's also not someone who is known particularly for his defensive ability. So you've got someone who's a box-to-box midfielder without having a real impact either end, and that's a big worry. But he is someone who's very technical and definitely fits into the RZ style of play. So let's hope that he can either work on his game defensively or more likely in an attacking way and make an impact with the first team in the coming years. And number 11 is definitely someone we can have a conversation about, Mike, because he's been so well known throughout his youth years, and that's Daishan Ridan in number 11. What's your thoughts on him?
For me, I think if we were doing this list maybe 1 or 2 years ago, Ridan would have been top 5 because there was so much excitement around him when he was at Chelsea, and he was scoring so many goals for Netherlands youth sides. He was such an exciting prospect. I have to admit, I was very surprised when he decided to leave Chelsea. I thought he was nailed on to become a starter for them and break into their first team, and with the talent that he's got. And he went to Hertha Berlin. He made maybe 1 or 2 appearances for their first team, but he was stuck in their under 19s and under 23 side as well. And I think he made the right decision. In January, he went to Groningen, but as we've discussed before, it's a side that doesn't really suit strikers at the moment. And he's only played a handful of games so far, but he's not scored yet. And if he does work a lot hard for the team, and you can see the talent's there, but he's just not getting the chances to score the goals. And yeah, I think that it's great that he's getting first team appearances at the moment, but I'm hoping that he develops over the next couple of years and to be the player that I thought he was going to be, because right now I think he's going to be one that over the next couple of years maybe slides down this list and then maybe doesn't reach the potential that he does have. But right now, I'm still very excited about him. I hope he starts scoring the goals for Connolly when the season does actually get back underway, and we'll see how he does for Hereford One next season. Because that's a club that is not very going for a very good time at the moment in the Bundesliga. They're changing coaches left, right, and centre, so he might have made a difficult move there. He might have made the wrong decision, but yeah, hopefully he gets a chance there in the next couple of years because he's a player that, I was 2 years ago, I was so excited about.
Same for me too. I thought he was going to be reaching the absolute top. We were talking about him making a Netherlands debut because of a lack of striker options, and he still can't make an impact with Hertha Berlin. And I'm sure they signed him to do that as well, because we've seen in the past other players going to the Bundesliga and they've gone on to make a first team impact. Who's a player that I'm thinking about, Mike? That winger who was making waves in Germany. Yeah, that's right. Javari Dilrosun. He's doing well in Germany. Injuries have held him back, but Redon was someone who I thought would go and do that, and he hasn't yet, which is a shame. I hope that his move to England early in his career didn't start the downward spiral. Again, I hope that he can get past the frustration he's having at Groningen and learn some lessons, and who knows where he'll be in future. Now, the next one on this list, number 10, is certainly a controversial one, and I'm sure that it's, again, one that people would say, oh, he should be higher on this list. But at 16, very hard to say, but Xavi Simons, or is it Xavi Simmons, Mike? I haven't heard his name said by a commentator yet, but he's someone who I've certainly seen a lot online in his teenage years, someone who was with Barcelona's youth teams, and now he's with PSG. What are your thoughts on this midfielder? Is he just a bit of an online social media superstar, or is he actually a decent footballer as well?
Now, this is the difficult question because, yes, for youth football and what I've seen in the past where he's coming through Barcelona Academy and what he's doing for Netherlands under 16s and under 17s, he is a very technical and very talented player who suits youth football well, but is he got to be the one that makes a step up and becomes an absolute superstar, which has been expected of him? The worry for me is that he was so beloved in the Barcelona Academy a couple of years ago, and everything was going so well. He's named after Xavi. You think that he's nailed on to be a Barcelona superstar for years to come, and that's what they were expecting from him. But then, his agent Mino Raiola, he changed to him, and the next thing you know, he's leaving Barcelona. He's now in the PSG Academy, a club that doesn't have an under-23 side anymore, doesn't have a reserve side. You've got to wonder how they managed to convince him to leave Barcelona. Have they told him that they're going to fast track him into the first team, which is what I hope. Maybe he'll make a couple of appearances in the French Cup next year. But the worry for me is that he is going to be one of these players that's, he gets followers on Twitter and Instagram. He's over, 2 million, but never actually makes a step up. He could be the Dutch equivalent of a Freddie Adu, one that makes so much impact at youth football, but just doesn't ever make that step up. He's a very small player. He's very slight. Right at the moment, would he be strong enough to make it in the modern game? We'll have to wait and see how he bulks up over the next couple of years. And yeah, it's one that I think has all the potential in the world. He's probably a social media dream for a club, but we need to wait and see if he can actually make that impact in first team football, which we don't know yet. There was some reports in the summer when he did leave Barcelona that the club were not even that excited about him anymore, and they weren't that devastated that he left. But that could just be them putting that out there because they didn't want to hide their disappointment. But we'll see this couple of years if he makes his debut for the PSG, because the way people talk about him, he should be banging on the door of the first team already.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure if a player that age is going to be able to play for PSG's first team, and I wonder if he'll get a loan move somewhere else and he'll either be found out or he'll go and excel and really prove himself ready for the PSG first team. That'll perhaps be his next move. And at number 9 is an Ajax forward, Sontje Hansen. If you put someone this high in the list, Mike, then surely he must be someone who's very ready for the Ajax first team in the next couple of years. can he be someone who Ajax are depending on and could be that next first team player from the youth team? He's this high on our list. He's got to be good, right?
Yeah, and he's already made a couple of appearances for the Ajax first team this season off the bench in the waiting games. We saw the Under-17 World Cup. He finished top goal scorer with 6 goals. He was immense in that competition. And, you don't finish top scorer of a competition like that if you don't have some talent about you. And there's been some players that have come through that have had that impact in youth tournaments. And I think Hansen's one that, Ajax are very excited about. We're going to see him making a handful of appearances in the first team early next season as well. And we'll see him probably train with the first team over the summer. And if he can make an impact in pre-season, then there's no reason why he can't break into the first team on a full-time basis, because he's very dynamic. He can play on the wings. He can play for the middle. He's so quick. He's got such great dribbling ability. He terrifies defenders at his level. And we've seen him making an impact for young Ajax as well this season. So yeah, he's a great talent. And for me, he could even be higher in this list. He's that good. But we'll put him at number 9. And if we do this list again next year, maybe he'll be the top 3, because I think he has definitely a talent to become a Netherlands starting striker. And yeah, what Netherlands maybe lacks at times is a bit of pace, and I think Hansen's one that can definitely fast track into Ajax's first team and maybe see him making his Netherlands debut in the next couple of years, because he'll be such a handful for defenders.
And I think that's why he's a little lower down our list, because a lot of the players that are now above Hansen on this list are players that are making first team appearances for a lot of the bigger Dutch clubs, but also are players that have gone and proven themselves somewhere else first. But number 8 is someone who perhaps hasn't gone on to do that yet, Ludovic Reis. He played quite a lot for Groningen in his final Eredivisie season before moving to Barcelona, but was making first team appearances as an 18-year-old. But now, is he someone who's going to end up stalling his career by playing in these Barcelona youth teams, or do you think that Barcelona have seen a lot of potential in this young man and are probably going to be pushing him towards a first team in the next year or 2? I
think it's always a worry, because Reis was a first team player for Groningen and he was impressing in the Eredivisie. I loved him when he was playing for Groningen, and I thought he was a top talent. But there's got to be a reason why Barcelona acted so quickly. Last season, I think it was January or February that they announced the deal that they signed him for the summer. They got in ahead of the likes of Ajax, PSV, who are all sort of circling. I think he's such a talented defensive midfielder that I really do hope that he is playing basically every game for Barcelona B this season, and I hope that he does get fast tracked into the first team over the next couple of years, because there is a lot of talents that come through at Barcelona and end up getting loaned out constantly, and then end up at smaller Spanish clubs. And I hope that doesn't happen to Reis, because I think he's been training regularly with Barcelona first team. I hope he can learn from the likes of Frankie de Jong and Busquets, become a better player. And he's already a regular for Netherlands under 21s at the moment. I think he's a player that could eventually break into the first team if he does make an impact at Barcelona, or even if he does get a loan move out to I'm really hoping it's to a top division Spanish club, so he can make an impact there and prove that he is ready for the Barcelona first team. It's going to be hard for him, because I think that club's going to sign quite a few midfielders over the next couple of years, and he's got Frankie de Jong ahead of him, because he's going to be the one that takes over from Busquets. It's going to be hard for Reis, but he's got so much talent. I can see him either making an impact at Barcelona or going to another top club, because he's a very exciting prospect.
Yeah, I always made him out to be a midfielder who was going to make it, because he was so clever already at that young age, but also wasn't someone who was overhyped perhaps by coming through at the Ajax academy. So it was really quite exciting to see him making an impact in Eredivisie, but it's just a shame that he had to go and leave so early. And the next player on our list is Mitchell Bucker in at number 7, and he left the Ajax academy, didn't he? And I think that was because at the time they had Tagliafico, didn't they? And they weren't going to be putting him in at left back, because I think he used to be a midfielder, but then they decided he is going to be a left back. But he wanted to move away, knowing that he wouldn't get his chance. And PSG were very keen, and it seems as though he's the sort of backup left back at the French team at the minute. But he's hoping perhaps to make a breakthrough in the next season or 2. Again, like a lot of these players, it's the next couple of years that are really, really vital for them. But Bucker is a already a very impressive fullback, and we're just waiting for him to get a chance, aren't we?
Yeah, I thought he was going to be an Ajax, first team player when he was coming through, and there was a lot of excitement when he was playing for Ajax under 19s and young Ajax. But he's gone to PSG and he's already making first team appearances for them. We've seen three since the turn of the year, and I think if the season was still on at the moment, he would have made a handful more because he's been impressive for them when he is getting a chance. He's so good going forward. He's so tall and strong at the back as well. He's very powerful left back, and he's one that over the next couple of years will hopefully make a huge impact for PSG because full back position is one that is a problem for Netherlands at left back and right back, and back is one of the ones that could make an impact in the future.
Yeah, he seems like someone who is going to be able to fulfil his potential, and again, that next year is really key. And now we're going to go back to someone who's only 16 years of age, Nacho Unava, someone who, at the age of 14, was playing with the under-17s, and now at the age of 16 was making his first team Ajax debut. He is thought of really, really highly. And he's such a skillful midfielder, isn't he, Mike? And there's so many YouTube reels you can find just showing you how skillful he is. But that is also the danger, because a lot of players who are in these really quite high-profile academies, particularly Ajax for the Netherlands, you can easily get sucked into watching how skillful a player is, but actually then not pay attention to how good he might be at first-team level. It's a very different atmosphere, very different place to play your football. But already looks as if someone as he could be destined for the top.
Yeah, for me, he's got all the talent in the world. You've seen him countless times for young Ajax this season, like producing world-class passes, some unbelievable assists that he's already got, and he's the type of player that your jaw drops watching him sometimes because you're just wondering how he's pulled off a pass or how he's managed to skip away from a couple of defenders with just a feint of his body. The sad thing is he reminds me a lot of Nuri when he first started coming through, and the two are very similar players. I think that Univar is also quite similar to Hakim Ziyech. He's got that technical ability, that passing ability. You can play in several different positions. I think right now he's playing mostly on the wing for young Ajax, and he's a player that's got so much ability and potential that you already see him making his first team debut at 16, and you just wonder how far he can go, because this is one that, if you're talking about world-class talent, for his age group, Univar's probably one of the best in the world at his age group at the position that he plays. And over the next couple of years, if he's getting those first team Ajax appearances under his belt, then he could be potentially an absolute world-class talent and one that's going to go right to the top. First team appearances are going to be crucial over the next couple of years. He is only 16, but yeah, if he's already making his debut this season, he's only going to get more and more appearances over the next couple of years because Ajax fans absolutely love him and they want to see more of him.
It's quite exciting that you could end up with an Ajax midfield containing Jurgen Ekkelenkamp, Ryan Gravenberch and Nacho Unava. They're three players who all seem to be coming through at the same time. I know Ajax will want to have more experience in that midfield, and that could ultimately cause problems for these young midfielders if they're not going to be able to get the games. I think we should have a little discussion about that a bit later, because there might be somebody else in that Ajax midfield in our top five, and we're going to enter that now. Number 5 is Joshua Zirkzee, someone who is coming through at Bayern Munich's academy, but then wasn't initially from their academy, but is now starting to be given that chance from the Bayern Munich bench. I think weren't there a few injuries, Mike, and he was given that chance in the first team, and I think he took it, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about dream debuts in the Bundesliga, Xerxes had it because he came on 2 games in a row late on, scoring crucial goals that led to victories for Bayern, and he's become a bit of a phenomenon in Germany. He's made 5 or 6 Bundesliga appearances now. He scored 3 goals. He's now seen as the backup striker to Lewandowski, and I think that the club are even holding off signing another striker next year because they see so much potential in Xerxes being the backup to Lewandowski next year, and it's so exciting to have a striker that's producing and scoring goals for one of the best teams in the world, and that's what Xerxes is, and it's it's so strange because he got a chance after a handful of games for Bayern's under 23 side where he was struggling. He wasn't scoring any goals, and then he suddenly gets his first team appearances and he just grabs it with both hands. And he's got so much potential. He's tall, strong, good in the air, 2-footed, great dribbler. He's fast, he's quick, he's everything that a centre forward needs. And yeah, I think if the season was still going on now, he'd be scoring goals left, right, and centre for Bayern's first team. And yeah, you're talking about him being a potential starting striker for Netherlands at Euro 2020 if it went ahead. If Memphis and Malin were out, because he's that good and he's that seen as such a high prospect right now in the Bayern Munich first team. Yes, it's great to see such a young Dutch talent having such a big impact.
He just seems to have almost come out of nowhere. I know that we talked about him when he was 15, 16 as one of those exciting players that could be coming through in the Netherlands youth teams, but then to have taken his first team chance by the scruff of the neck, it's magnificent. And yeah, I hope he continues with Bayern Munich's first team, and perhaps even him and Lewandowski could learn so much from him. Perhaps if he plays together with him. And now I think we should move to number 4, someone who is playing in England but making waves, and is someone who could make his first team sort of breakthrough soon. He has got a problem though, because he's got a very exciting right back ahead of him. He's got Trent Alexander-Arnold in front of him. It's Ki-Jana. Now, he has made such an impact with the Netherlands under 17s. He was an absolute star of that team that made it to lift that European trophy. And it also won again, that did so well at the World Cup as well. He has had a few appearances already for the Liverpool first team. He's a very technical player. Again, like Alexander-Arnold, is someone who is excelling at fullback because of his technical abilities. He used to play centre-back as well, but could easily push forward into midfield. I guess it depends what happens next with Alexander-Arnold. Now, this is a Dutch football podcast. I'm not going to get into what this other English fullback is going to be doing with his future, but ultimately, if he moves to midfield, say, then it gives Hervé that chance, because otherwise his development's going to be stalled. But I think that he's ready for the first team already.
Yeah, Jurgen Klopp's a massive fan of him. He keeps coming out saying how great whoever is, but we need to see him getting first team chances, and this is the frustrating thing for me. He's so good, and he's when he plays for Netherlands under 17s, he's a standout, and he's ready for first team football right now. But when you see the Liverpool squad coming in, and every week it's Alexander-Arnold at right back, and Hoover's not even on the bench until you get to League Cup games, FA Cup games where he gets a chance. You're hoping that Klopp would maybe rotate a little bit with the Premier League title basically in the bag, but he's not really done that. Alexander-Arnold's played most games, and you're kind of just waiting for Hoover to get a chance now, and maybe it's going to be a loan out next year. I think if Liverpool made him available for a loan, loads of Premier League clubs would be going in for him, loads of top European clubs would be going for, because he's that good. You can play in most sides in the Premier League, but it's just that he's just waiting for that chance. And Klopp can say how good he is constantly, but you need to see him actually getting some minutes so he can actually prove that. And whether it be in the centre where he's played before, he can play alongside Van Dijk, or he can play on the right hand side of the defence. We just need to get him fast tracked into some first team football, because he's ready now, and he's ready for potentially the Netherlands national team at right back. He just needs to get an opportunity.
And that is again the frustration of playing with an English club, having to develop that way. Because if he was playing for a PSV or a final right now, he'd be getting so many games and then being picked up by a Liverpool, for example. So I don't know what's going to happen with his next few years, but it just depends on how much football he can be given, or perhaps a loan move away. Who knows? But either way, I can't see Alexander-Arnold moving clubs, so his development's going to be stalled if that continues. At number 3, again, someone who was playing with the Ajax's under 17s at just 14 years of age, Ryan Gravenberch. He is such an exciting midfielder, and he's not the same player as Frenkie de Jong, but he is someone who's going to sort of replace that excitement in the Ajax midfield. he is someone who's going to be playing first team football for the next 2-3 years with Ajax, and then he could be getting his move a step up, if you like. He's a much more physical midfielder than De Jong. De Jong was more technical. Gravenberch is also technical. In fact, what sets him apart, I think, is how he can beat players and make a pass. But his physical abilities make him a better defensive midfielder than De Jong was. That doesn't mean that he's a better prospect than De Jong, though. I still think that Frenkie De Jong is going to be the ultimate Dutch midfielder for the next 5 to 10 years. But let's see what Gravenberch can do. To me, he strikes a similarity to Richard Bazeur, and Bazeur had a lot of excitement around him for a long time before then taking that step abroad too early and then wasting his talent. I think, though, that Gravenberch has also got a better head on him as well. I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Mike, because I think that he's quite an arrogant midfielder. I think that he... And you do need a bit of arrogance as a footballer, don't get me wrong, especially being an Ajax one. But then I think he looks a bit too confident with the fact that he's playing with Ajax first team at such a young age. And I hope that that's not then a bad personality trait, because that could hinder his development in future.
Yeah, for me, he's another player that's got all the talent in the world. He's already playing regularly for Ajax at 17. He's broken fully into Ten Hag's side this season, and I can't see him getting dropped anytime soon. He's going to hold that position down for years to come if he keeps developing, and he's one that's already been linked with moves to the biggest clubs. Recently Barcelona were said to be big admirers of him. Juventus have been linked in the past, and yeah, he's excelling when he's playing. He's got so much technical abilities. He's a good dribbler. He's a good tackler. He can score goals. He can do basically anything in midfield. But the only criticism I've seen of him is his attitude, and sometimes he can maybe get a bit lazy in games, and that's the only worry. If he can maybe shake that off, he's only 17. You can expect a little bit of arrogance if he's that young. Already playing for Ajax's first team, maybe it's gone to his head a little bit. But you can get coached out of that, and hopefully they're drumming into him that he needs to work hard, because I think that's where it went wrong with Bazor. I think he had a bit too much attitude on him, and he didn't want to develop his game enough, and it's all gone wrong for him since. But I think that Gravenberch is a much bigger prospect than he ever was, and I can see him going straight to the top of the game, and over the next couple of years he's got to be in Ajax midfield, and let's just enjoy him, because he is such a top prospect, and he's one that's going to be part of the Netherlands national team in the next couple of years, and he's got to be there for quite a while, I think.
Yeah, having him and De Jong in that midfield could be so exciting, because you've got someone who's defensively robust and then someone who's technically so brilliant next to each other. That could be brilliant stuff. Number 2, I think, is someone who certainly has not faltered in his attitude, and is someone who has been such a focused young man in his development so far, is Myron Boadu, the RZ striker. He was scoring so many goals for the youth teams for RZ and the Netherlands youth teams, and he didn't end up having to even make many appearances for young RZ in the Eerste Divisie, because he was just fast-tracked to the first team. RZ could see the kind of player he was. Now, I may have said this in the podcast in the past, that I didn't actually have that high hopes for him. I thought that having watched him up front in the stands at RZ, he was quite one-dimensional, and perhaps we relied a little bit too much on pace, technically okay. But how wrong I've been. He's overcome 2 massive long-term injuries in his career already at just 19. Let's hope that he doesn't get them again, though, and let's hope he's not prone to these kind of injuries, because he's just almost a complete forward already for RZ. He's so pivotal for how they do their build-up play. His finishing is excellent. He's not bad in the air as well, for someone who's not physically strong or perhaps that tall. I think he's someone who's going to be, again, reaching the top of the game and being a Netherlands striker in no time at all.
You're totally right. We've seen that in the past, these players get hyped up when they're 15, 16, and Boadu was one that was always seen as a future star at such a young age, and sometimes they don't live up to potential, but Boadu's definitely done that so far. He's come into the is the first team he's been relied on as the first striker this season, and he's not let them down at all. He's come so impressive that he's come back from 2 major injuries, and he's added more to his game than just pace this season. He is good in the air, and he's a good finisher. He's a good finisher, but I think that's the one area he needs to work on. He needs to take more of his chances that he gets. But he's scoring so many goals at the moment for AZ, and I've seen him in big games as well against Ajax, Feyenoord, and PSV, finding the net. He's 2 wins over Ajax. He scored in both of them, and he's a big game player. You've seen it when he made his Netherlands debut against Estonia. He came off the bench and he was a live wire, and he scored a great goal as well. I think he's going to be a massive prospect for Netherlands in the next few years. I think he'll be in the Euro squad next year. Definitely, I think he'll be a wild card for Ronald Koeman off the bench, and there's no wonder that all the top clubs are circling him at the moment, because he's showing so much potential right now. He's only just turned 19, and he's a striker that could be banging in goals for years to come.
I think the question remains with Boadu though is, will he make a transfer this summer, or do you think that he'll stay with RZ? I guess Champions League football is a bit of a deal breaker in this decision that he might have to make though. But the worry is, at the moment he's doing really well, but if he makes transfer now and then doesn't get the games, he could quickly lose all that potential that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think he's a player that definitely needs another year at AZ at least. He's only just turned 19. You can't let it go to his head and look at the reports of, say, Barcelona looking at him. I think if he was going to make a move, then it would have to be to somebody like, a PSV, who just don't have the money to sign him, because he'd be a starting striker there. Ajax as well. If he went there, would he be starting striker? Hopefully, if they drop Tadic back to the wing, Boadu can make the move there. But AZ aren't going to sell to Ajax or PSV this summer, and it's going to take a lot of money to get him, and it's going to be a club like Barcelona, and he's not ready to play regular for them right now. So staying put at AZ is definitely the best thing for his development right now.
And finally, our number 1 is PSV's Mohamed Ihataren. What a young midfielder he is, at 18 years of age. Someone who is so important for PSV's creativity at the moment. Their other attacking midfielders and strikers just don't have the quality that he possesses. And I think that it was almost a simple choice putting him at number 1. And I wonder if anyone who disagrees with us can make a strong case for anyone else to be the number 1 in this list. Because, I think for me, he's someone who seems so driven. And again, we talked about Nori a little bit earlier, and he's another player who, for me, reminds me of him, just because he's so technically gifted and so creative to spot a pass from anywhere. I think if you put him in any team, he could be the creative heartbeat of it. But that's how exciting I think he is already.
Yeah, I mean, words, can't describe some of the performances he's put in for PSV this season. They've had a bad campaign, but when you're 17, 18 and you're the standout and most important player for PSV, you have to have something about you. And I think he's the most exciting talent in the Eredivisie this season. He should be winning in Young Player of the Year for me. He's been sensational for PSV, and his passing ability, his dribbling ability, he can score goals, he can take set pieces, he can take free kicks. Everything about him at such a young age is so good. And PSV are lucky to have him, and it's such a relief early this season when he came out and said that he was going to represent Netherlands. And that just shows you how good he was when he was just making his debut, that there was such a worry that Morocco were steal him, and it's front page news everywhere when he decided to choose Netherlands. And it goes to show you that how good he is, that Ronald Koeman's already talking about him being a starter for Netherlands in press conferences before. He said that the right wing position at the moment is up in the air, and Ihataren is one of the options he's got for playing there. It's not his position that he'll want to play all his career. He's want to probably move into the number 10 position where he can make a big impact, like a Wesley Sneijder. That's how good he could be for the Netherlands national team. But even at the right wing, he can dribble past players, he can spot passes, he can cross the ball. Yeah, he's just a talent that's got everything going forward for him, and he's got such a screwed-on head about him as well. I've read countless articles about him where his family make sure he's not getting too ahead of himself, and he makes the right decisions. And I think he's going to stay at PSV for at least another couple of years. They have a good relationship with his agent, is Mino Raiola again. That's a worry, but I have a good relationship with him, and I don't think that he'll be trying to force a move to any big club anytime soon. You've already seen the likes of Manchester City, Barcelona, everyone linked to Ajax because he is that good. But I think he'll be in Eindhoven the next couple of years, and they're basically going to build the whole squad around him because he's the most gifted player and most influential. He's making the sort of impact that you saw Afellay make when he first broke into the PSV side. I've seen when Snyder made his debut for Ajax, the Van der Vaarts. This is the type of player we're talking about here. It's one that's going to be a top class player for Netherlands for years to come because he's so good.
Yeah, Afellay is such a good comparison. He really reminds me of him when he came through at PSV. That kind of midfielder does so much for the team. And I watched Ihataren come through the Netherlands youth teams with the under-17s, and he was put on the left wing. So he can play in the left wing, the right wing, and an attacking midfield. What do you think is his most influential position, Mike? You talked about how he wants to play as a 10, attacking midfield. Why do coaches keep putting him out on the wings then, in which case? It's not as if there's always a better player in the 10 position. Do you think that he's better as a right winger or playing behind the striker?
If it was me and I was coaching him, I'd potentially just give him a free role in a number 10 position, just let him move basically wherever he wants and dictate play and find chances. I think that's where he should be playing. I think that for Netherlands, he might get pushed down right wing, and that's just because Koeman has so many options and he doesn't want to drop, say, Gini Wijnaldum at the moment for Ihataren. But I think in the next couple of years we'll see Wijnaldum fall out the Netherlands squad, and they have such a capable replacement and one that's potentially a much better player going forward than Wijnaldum in the number 10 position. I think that this is a generational talent that only comes around every now and again, and Netherlands need to nurture him, and PSV need to nurture him, and his family need to nurture him because he can't be making any silly decisions that are going to impact his career at this moment because he's making such waves at PSV. I think the next season we'll see him play constantly at number 10 for PSV, and hopefully he will get game times for Netherlands. And even if it is in the right wing position, he's such a attacking outlet that he can impress there as well. But going forward, once we see Wijnaldum retire, there's no number 10 that I want to see more in his position than Ihataren.
That completes our list anyway of the top 30 Dutch teenage talents that are going around at the moment. So many fantastic young players there, and our top 5, top 10 players are sure to make an impact with the top best clubs in Europe. Again, let us know in the comments or on Twitter who you think is your top 10, or you can do a top 30 of the best Dutch teenage talents. Thank you if you've made it this far in listening to this sort of podcast that we're doing. And again, drop us a like if you enjoyed it. I'd like to also thank Mike for joining me for this. And yeah, we enjoy doing this kind of ranking as well, and we know that it's a really difficult choice. But for now, thanks for listening, and we'll release some more stuff soon.